Okay, what is up, podcast community? This is Three Questions Podcast. My name's Cam King, and welcome to episode number 52. This is a solo dolo episode for today, and I have three questions, name of the podcast, and they are from Anna Smith. Anna Smith, one N. I don't know. Anna could be either or. I apologize for butchering your name. Anna Smith submitted these questions, and they are three fantastic questions. I'm going to get to them right after the intro. Here we go. Okay, cool. Again, Three Questions Podcast. You guys have been listening. This is episode number 52. I want to thank you guys for listening, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all the really cool areas where we can listen and obtain so much knowledge from. As you know, I'm trying to get as many guests on here as I can. I just got off another call, going to be having more guests come with some really cool things to talk about. And again, you can submit questions any way you want. 3questionspodcast@gmail.com. You can submit them over Instagram, over TikTok now. And again, just comment or submit something. You can go to ckcollective.co under the podcast tab and submit questions there. And if you want to be a guest to come on and talk about some random questions, just sign up. I'd love to have you on as my schedule allows. You can find the Calendly link on ckcollective.co as well. However, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this whole thing, right? You're here to submit questions and hear my thoughts. These questions are pretty intense, and I just read parts of them, so I haven't read fully through them, but I'm getting an understanding about these. And I'm pretty passionate about some of the things that Anna submitted. So, Anna, I hope I suffice your answers. You obviously took a lot of time to submit these, so I want to thank you for that. Let's get into it. Question number one. What are your thoughts on the Mexican-U.S. border crisis and the overpour of illegal immigration into this country? What will it take to secure the border if the federal government continues to deny the severity of it? I'm going to say that my first instinct and reaction to this is that we here in America are a nation of immigrants ourselves. Every country has had a major immigration from their country during a time of plight, warfare, or worse, over to the United States. And it used to happen in droves. And I don't know what it was like 100 years ago. All we have is these accounts of what it was like at Staten Island, Ellis Island, and all these areas of major influx. And what I'll say about people coming across the Mexican and U.S. border crisis is that I empathize with a lot of those people. However, does it mean that they should come into the country freely and be able to have, citizenship and birthrights and money and a free place to stay? I don't know that that's the right answer. I think that history historically has shown us that when countries are quote unquote invaded or have an abundance of people migrating to that country, things tend not to go well for that. History has countless examples of that. Rome obviously being the best of that, especially when the barbarians all sort of just hunkered down and flooded Rome. Rome at the time of its downfall was actually eerily similar to what's going on in America today. So I urge you to look at that concept and read a little bit more into that if you would like to know sort of the similarities or the parallax there. However, there needs to be some format of processing and documenting these people because they're coming over in tens of thousands of people across the southern border. And it appears that they're just walking in and are granted citizenship. And I don't know that all these people are being investigated or processed or documented. Texas is busing hundreds and thousands of people to all of these, safe haven cities like New York and Chicago and Denver, and it's crushing these cities. I think New York is now running out of space. They don't have anywhere to put these people, and the state government of New York, I'm pretty sure, is paying these hotels to put these families and people up for free. And whether these people are good people or whether there's criminals, there appears to be not just Mexican immigrants coming from Mexico. It appears to be all of Latin America. It appears to be all of South America. There are reports of people from the Middle East and people from China walking in across the southern border and are now citizens. And I get that the right side of the country appears to think that it's some sort of invasion or future terrorist attack, or we're being outnumbered. And they're saying, oh, all these military age males with just them and no families is very suspicious. I hear that. However, I do believe that we should be a nation about welcoming others into our own country. And I think that that should make us better. I think we're already a hodgepodge. And I think as divisive as the country is today, it's a shame that we can't find an agreement on this. There needs to be some sort of protection for the border. People shouldn't be allowed to freely cross into any perceived country, right? Maybe Europe is a difference, but I don't know that there's a mass immigration or emigration going on over there as well. There needs to be some sort of check and balance, and I am disappointed in the government's lack of ownership on this. I'm disappointed in the fact that the government is not able to procure a solution to this or a temporary relief. Texas appears to just be putting National Guard people down there, but they're also letting people in. And it's very odd. There's a lot of mixed media. There's a lot of bias, obviously, towards the situation. Elon Musk was just down there doing a whole live stream about this, asking some of the people, hey, how do we fix this? What do we need to do? And he's an immigrant himself from South Africa. So even we have immigrants in this country saying, hey, this is a problem, right? There needs to be some sort of process here for these people. But at the same time, they're overwhelming us with the amount of people that are coming in here. I think something needs to be established where we say no, but we're able to sort of check these people in. Or I don't know. If I knew the answer, I could probably make a lot more money than this, but it's very disappointing because we're a nation that's been built on the best of everyone else in the world coming here to be great, to give their families an opportunity and to pursue the actual true American dream, which is just a better situation and outcome for you and those that you love about. And these people do deserve that. However, as a country, we need to streamline our process and figure out a better way. And I hope we can do that together. That's all I have for 5 minutes. I'm going to hop to question number 2 because it's actually a follow-up on question number 1. Question number 2, a follow-up of the previous question regarding the border. With the lack of security, law and order at the border and human trafficking is at an all-time high, what are your solutions to combat this and to bring awareness to the horrors and injustice of what's happening to thousands of innocent people? Human trafficking is a horrible, horrible issue. I do not know enough about it to really be able to comment on this. However, I will speak on the lack of security and law and order at the border. My heart goes out to people that have been human trafficking or that have been human trafficked, especially children. I think that is one of the worst crimes in the world. If you commit an act of violence against a child at any level, right? Sexual or physical or mental or emotional, children should be protected at all costs. And the fact that these third world countries are havens for this kind of human trafficking, whether it be for drug muling or for other nefarious purposes that I really don't wish to speak about on this podcast, I'll say that my heart really goes out to these people and something needs to be done. It does. I don't know that one person can ultimately change this. There was a movie that just came out about this. I am already spacing the name because I'm in the middle of a 48-hour fast, but I'll say that human trafficking needs to be checked. And it is not a topic that is spoken about enough in our society because for whatever reason, this has been existing for thousands of years. People have been enslaving and trafficking other humans. And it is one of the worst things that we as human beings do to ourselves. I don't know that any other species on the planet does this to their own kind the same way that we do, the same way that we rape and pillage and murder and kill and enslave people for horrible purposes. At what point are we going to bind together and say, hey, we should be helping each other out, we should be supporting each other out? Instead, ego, drive, money, power, sex, all of these things drive completely nefarious purposes. And instead of building it, working towards and building a better society, we have fallen on ourselves and we continue to self-sabotage and degrade and demoralize and kill and murder and hate one another. And I do not get it. Okay. I do not get it. And so speaking from the heart there, something needs to be done about human trafficking in particular across the border. I don't know how, if at all, that we are documenting these people and these families, but there should be checks on some of these people and some of these families coming across the border. I don't know that we have a large enough civil structure to be able to monitor all that, to be able to keep track of these people or do home calls or really have verified way to see that, hey, this person is actually bringing this kid across the border. I know randomized checks across our southern and northern border, that's fine. Routine checks, randomized checks, that does alleviate some of it, but where are the people really hunting these people down, right? It's not until these people become well known enough to land on the FBI's most wanted list that our government actually starts to go after these people. Even so, I don't want to speak on the whole Epstein thing, but that was clearly a huge transgression against society and against children, and even the victims who have come out have somewhat been silenced, and that story has been suppressed for a long time. It makes you wonder just how high this thing really goes. And I don't want to get into conspiracies on this podcast, but I think human trafficking is one of the world's top issues. I think it will continue to happen. I don't know that anybody can really ever stop it. I think it can be a very personalized thing, and I think it can also be a very organized thing, which makes it extremely hard to identify and know. And I think that these circles are leveraging technology or secrecy or payoffs. And what is going on against the acts of children and violence completely shatters my heart when I tend to think about it or discuss it, as I think it does to most people, which is why they probably don't want to talk about it, or it's not being talked about in the public sphere or the news sphere enough. So I really don't know how to alleviate that. It's a lack of security and law of order at the border. Human trafficking is an issue. It will always be an issue. It's always been an issue. And until we really elevate ourselves and understand that we're all on the same team and we're actually all not all that different, I think it's going to continue to be an issue, and it is one of humanity's worst qualities. That's really all I have for 5 minutes, but I hope that suffices your questions. I don't have solutions to be able to combat that and bring awareness other than to continue to talk about it, as uncomfortable as it may be sometimes. Now, third question, quick podcast today, burning through it. Unrelated to the first two questions, what are your thoughts on modern dating apps, casual hookups, dating without intention? Do you feel like modern dating has contributed to a high divorce rate in our society and has caused more confusion and less connection in the last 3 generations? If so, what would your solution be? I do. I fully agree with your question. And being someone who is freshly out of a relationship and has just used and deleted the dating apps, I can tell you this. It made me feel very empty talking to, as many women as I could match with. And it emptied my cup faster than I could have ever thought it did. I thought I was ready. I thought I could talk to new chicks, and it hurt me. It hurt me more than I could handle. And now I am taking a month off to focus on myself, focus on my business, and get my ducks back in a row, because that is what I need. I think a lot of people have been raised on the idea of the Disney relationship, right? The prince and the princess, the king and the princess, the knight and the princess. And I think it has caused a lot of unrealistic expectations. I also feel like unrealistic expectations is what contributes to a high divorce. That and the ability to have as many options as you want with these dating apps or casual hookups. I think sex has been made a commodity. I think it has been sold in our news and media and movies and television and music for decades now, and it has cheapened what real connection is. I don't think people are aligned with their heart and their brain. I think people date without intention. I think people date out of loneliness. I think people hook up out of loneliness. I think people hook up out of necessity. It becomes a vice, an addiction, a crutch. And I think true connection takes a lot of work. You don't always get along with your partner. You may not like them, right? You may seek attention from elsewhere. People that have been through trauma tend to have abandonment issues, and there's so many different attachment styles, from being secure to being avoidant to being anxious. You can be all three. And if you aren't taking the time to learn this about yourself and understand this about yourself, is that you're already a whole person. You don't need someone else. You don't have a better half. Like, when you focus on becoming a whole person, all of a sudden you don't need connection, right? That's typically when true connection comes into your life. So when you already feel like a whole person, and you're like, damn, I've been filling my own cup up and this feels good. Now I have a full cup to share with this person who I want to share a full cup with. And I think that the modern dating scene is It's hookup culture, right? People have sex on first dates all the time. There's really no sort of old school traditional masculine man, and there's really no, traditional feminine women out there. That those appear to be things that are quickly escaping our society. If you listen to the whatever podcast or you watch clips on Instagram and YouTube, I think the rise of OnlyFans and female empowerment, while as great as that is, I think it's also led to, the emasculation of men in some various ways. And I think that's a real issue, because when men feel emasculated, they tend to go see porn, or they develop unrealistic expectations of sex because now they're just watching porn more consistently. And then instead of trying to work on themselves, their business, their fitness, and actually going out and meeting a new girl, if they taught how to deal with your emotions, if they taught how to build yourself and work on yourself and heal yourself and meditate and eat healthy and find positive outlets for us as people, if they taught that in school or they taught that in college, I know here as an entrepreneur, I see tons of coaches who are now teaching other guys. I teach some of my clients this stuff, is that self-development never really stops. And when you don't work on yourself, it's very easy to feel like you need someone else to fill the gaps in that you're not filling yourself. And working on yourself is really, really freaking hard. But when you just go out and you just have all this aimless sex and you just have a bunch of hookups, it actually, and I speak from experience, it literally takes my energy away. It makes me feel horrible inside, because that is not my natural instinct. My natural instinct is to want to be in a partnership, to create a family, to have kids, to have a loving relationship, to be super loyal, to always love my person, even though we may not always get along. And I feel like that is not existent in society today, and it's a damn shame. Casual hookups, modern dating apps, all of this without intention, that's what leads to a high divorce rate. You don't need a partnership. You need to feel whole yourself, and then partnership will come in at the right time. You cannot force it. And when we try to force it with these things, that's why our divorce rate is at 55 or 60%. Okay. The courtship never stops. You need to work on yourself. You need to protect, provide, take care of your family. Okay. History for thousands of years has been this way. And I don't think the rise of the past 20 years, even though this is our culture and this is our fad now, the past 20 or 30 years since all this stuff has really come out, I don't think that's the way. It's not the way of the future. So at some point it will go back. And I'm looking forward to that day that it does. So that's all I have for Three Questions Podcast today, episode number 52. Again, you can submit questions. You can become a guest whenever you want. I'd love to have you on. 3questionspodcast@gmail.com. Instagram is _3 questions podcast, and TikTok is just at 3 questions podcast. You can go to ckcollective.co, submit your questions, listen to all the previous podcast episodes. And if you have feedback, excuse me, I'd really appreciate it. Drop me a line, let me know. And if you want to, hop on, I'd love to have you. But your ratings, couple of you guys have left ratings. I really appreciate that on Spotify. But yeah, check the links below in the description. And Anna, I hope I answered your questions. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon.